Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Vincent Harper woke up that Tuesday just like any other day in the past 24 years of marriage. The routine was predictable: coffee at 6 a.m., a quick kiss for Denise before she left for her shift at the hospital, then the 40-minute drive to the insurance office in Charlotte. At 52, Vincent was the kind of man who found comfort in stability. Numbers didn't lie. Spreadsheets didn't betray. His marriage to Denise had always seemed to follow the same logic: solid, reliable, built on years of mutual understanding and respect. But in recent weeks, something had changed. Small inconsistencies had started to appear, like errors in a column of data that wouldn't balance. Denise had begun pulling extra shifts that didn't show up on the official schedule she usually shared with him. She came home smelling of a different, sweeter perfume, not the one he saw her put on in the morning. She'd laugh to herself while looking at her phone, quickly turning the screen away whenever he walked into the room. Vincent tried to ignore it, chalked it up to paranoia or the stress of her job as head nurse. But men who work with numbers know how to spot patterns. And this pattern screamed inconsistency. That Tuesday afternoon, Denise texted to say she'd be working the night shift. Emergency in the ICU. I'll be home late. Don't wait up. Vincent read the message on his phone and felt his stomach tighten. Something was wrong. He couldn't name it, but the feeling was like freefall. 2 hours later, using the excuse of a made-up family emergency, he called the hospital. The receptionist was polite and efficient. "Let me check." "No, Mr. Harper. Nurse Denise isn't scheduled today." "Are you sure she said she was on call?" Vincent's world collapsed in that instant. He hung up the phone with trembling hands, still seated at his office desk, the computer screen blurred before him. Anger came first, hot and suffocating, followed by an icy clarity. He wasn't going to wait. He wasn't going to collect more evidence or prolong the agony. If Denise was lying, he'd find out where she was right now. He remembered the tracker on her car. They'd installed it months earlier after a string of break-ins in their neighborhood, a security measure they'd both agreed on. Vincent opened the app on his phone, his hands still slightly shaking. The blue dot showing Denise's car was stationary at a residential complex 15 minutes away, Riverside Apartments. A place he'd never heard of. She didn't know anyone who lived there. Vincent grabbed his car keys, told his boss he was leaving early for personal reasons, and drove to the address. The evening traffic seemed to conspire against him, every red light felt like an eternity. When he finally reached the complex, he spotted Denise's car parked near one of the residential buildings. He stopped at a safe distance, turned off the engine, and waited. The cold logic of a financial controller took over. He needed visual proof, something undeniable. Half an hour dragged by like half a lifetime. Then the door of a ground-floor apartment opened. Denise stepped out, accompanied by a younger man, probably in his 30s, muscular, with the kind of gym-sculpted physique. She was laughing, casually adjusting her blouse, her hair slightly tousled. The man said something Vincent couldn't hear, and Denise playfully swatted his arm, teasing, intimate. Vincent felt bile rise in his throat but kept his hands steady. He took photo after photo with his phone, Denise getting into the car, the man waving from the doorway, her blowing him a kiss before starting the engine. Vincent waited until she drove off, then noted the apartment number, 12B. He took a deep breath, swallowed the fury threatening to explode, and headed home. He wouldn't confront her at the complex. He wouldn't give her the chance to make up excuses in front of her lover. This would happen on his turf, on his terms. He got home before Denise, turned off all the lights in the living room, and sat on the couch, the glow of his phone illuminating the photos he'd just taken. Each image was a stab to the chest, but also ammunition. He wasn't going to waste it on emotional outbursts. He'd be surgical. At 11 p.m., the key turned in the lock. Denise walked in with a heavy sigh, dropping her purse on the console with that performative exhaustion Vincent now recognized as fake. She entered the dark living room, frowning. "Vincent? You in here?" He flipped on the light. Denise blinked, adjusting to the brightness, and saw him sitting rigidly on the couch, his face expressionless. "How was work?" Vincent asked, his voice icy, each syllable sharp as a scalpel. Denise hesitated, and in that split-second pause, Vincent knew she sensed something was off. "Exhausting, it was a tough shift." "Why?" Vincent stood slowly. "Because I called the hospital today. Asked for you. They said you weren't scheduled." He took a step toward her. "And because I was at Riverside Apartments, Denise. I saw you come out of apartment 12B. I saw you with him." Color drained from Denise's face. She opened her mouth, closed it, tried to form words that wouldn't come. Finally, "Vincent, I can explain, it's not what you think. Don't make me out to be a fool." Vincent raised his phone, showing her the photos, Denise laughing, adjusting her clothes, the man at the door. "Don't insult our history by trying to convince me this is innocent. You owe me honesty now, at least." Denise tried to move closer, but Vincent stepped back. She began to cry, words tumbling out in fragments. He was a colleague, they were reviewing patient files, he was helping with a difficult case. But her own voice betrayed the lie, weak, desperate. Vincent just shook his head. "Reviewing files at 10 p.m. in a private apartment? With you all dressed up, laughing like that? Denise, I'm a financial controller. I recognize inconsistencies. And for weeks, you've been one walking inconsistency." She collapsed onto the couch, hands covering her face. Between sobs, the truth started to leak out. His name was Blake. A personal trainer. They'd met at the hospital gym 3 months ago. It started with conversations, then coffee, then, she couldn't finish the sentence. Vincent finished it for her, "Then you decided 24 years of marriage were worth less than some guy with a six-pack." Denise lifted her face, eyes red, trying to defend herself. "You don't understand, Vincent. I felt invisible. You live in your office, in your numbers, your spreadsheets. When was the last time you really saw me?" The anger Vincent had held back all night finally broke loose, but not in shouts. It came out in sharp, precise words. "Invisible? I held you when your mom died. I stayed up all night while you cried. I paid for your graduate degree when we barely had money. I supported you when you wanted to become head nurse, even though it meant less time together. But sure, Blake has time for the gym, and I've got bills to pay. How convenient." Denise reached for his arm, but Vincent pulled away as if she burned. "Don't touch me. You lost that right." He grabbed his car keys. "I'm sleeping at a hotel. Tomorrow I'll call a lawyer." "And Denise?" He turned at the door. "If you have an ounce of decency, you'll tell Olivia yourself. Because if I have to tell her, I won't leave anything out." Vincent spent the night at the Hampton Inn near his office, staring at the ceiling of the impersonal room, processing the implosion of his life. He didn't cry. Not yet. There were practical things to handle first. The next morning, he called Thomas Brennan, a divorce attorney a colleague had casually recommended years ago. Thomas was direct, with the photos, the documented lie about the shift, and the history of inconsistent scheduling. Vincent had a strong case. Denise called 17 times that day. Vincent didn't answer any. She sent long, desperate messages begging for a chance to talk, to explain, to fix things. Vincent deleted them all without reading fully. That evening, when he returned home to get clothes, Denise was waiting in the living room, eyes swollen, looking broken. "Vincent, please. We can get through this. It was a terrible mistake, I'll end it with him, go to therapy, do anything. You want me to be discreet, Vincent cut in, voice neutral. That's it, isn't it? You're scared this will get out, that your hospital colleagues will find out. That your reputation as a dedicated nurse will go down the drain. Denise opened her mouth but didn't deny it. Vincent went on, I won't spread this around, Denise. I'm not that kind of person. But I won't lie if I'm asked. And I'll tell Olivia. She deserves to know why her parents' marriage ended. No, Vincent, please, she doesn't need to know the details. Yes, she does. Because if I don't tell her, you'll make up some story that it was my fault. You'll say I was distant, cold, that you felt neglected. And I won't let you rewrite history to play the victim. Vincent called his daughter that same night. Olivia was in her second year of law school at the University of North Carolina, focused, intelligent, like her father in that way. He didn't beat around the bush, he explained the situation with the same clarity he'd use in a financial report. Her mother had an affair, he found out, the marriage was over. Olivia was silent for a long time. Then, her voice breaking, Mom cheated on you? But you two were always so. I thought you were different. I thought so too, Vincent replied, and for the first time felt his throat tighten. Olivia cut off contact with Denise for weeks. She didn't answer calls or messages. Denise, desperate, showed up at the university once, but Olivia refused to see her. Her daughter felt betrayed, not just by the act itself, but by the destruction of the family image she'd always believed in. Meanwhile, the news started to leak. Vincent didn't need to spread it himself. A close colleague of Denise's at the hospital, who was also a friend of theirs, asked him directly why he was looking for a lawyer. Vincent didn't lie. He told the truth. From there, the gossip spread through the hospital halls like wildfire. The respected head nurse, married for decades, having an affair with a young personal trainer. The story had all the ingredients for a juicy scandal to outsiders. Denise began to feel the stares. Conversations that stopped when she entered the break room. Veiled comments. Superficial sympathy from some co-workers who, behind her back, dissected every detail. She tried to hold her head high, but the pressure mounted. Worse still, when Blake found out the divorce was underway and the story had gone public, he simply vanished. He sent a cold text, "This is too complicated for me." It was good while it lasted. Good luck. Then he blocked Denise everywhere. The humiliation was complete. Denise, who'd always prided herself on her impeccable professional reputation, became the subject of whispers. She requested a transfer to another hospital department, but the stain was already set. Some longtime patients asked for different nurses, uncomfortable with the scandal. Denise tried reaching out to Vincent again, begging for another chance, saying Blake meant nothing, that it was just a moment of weakness. Vincent listened in silence, then said only, "If he meant nothing, then you threw away our family for absolutely nothing. That's even worse." The divorce moved relatively quickly. Assets were divided fairly, without major disputes. Vincent didn't want to drag it out. He wanted closure, healing, a way forward. Denise signed the papers with trembling hands, and when they left the courthouse, she tried one last time. "Vincent, I'm truly sorry. I ruined everything." He looked at her, the woman who'd been his partner for over 2 decades, and felt a mix of lingering anger and distant pity. Being sorry doesn't undo what you did, Denise. It doesn't restore trust. It doesn't erase the lies. He turned to leave, then paused. "And just so you know, I was never distant. I was present. You just chose not to see it." Vincent dove into rebuilding. He started therapy, something he'd always resisted, thinking it unnecessary, but now recognized as essential. He returned to the gym, not to impress anyone, but because he needed a healthy outlet for his anger. He rediscovered old hobbies, picked up the guitar again, something he hadn't done since college. He spent more time with Olivia, visiting her on weekends, repairing the father-daughter bond that the betrayal had shaken. Olivia eventually spoke to her mother again, but their relationship was never the same. There was distance now, caution. Denise tried to make up for it with gifts and excessive attention, but Olivia saw through it. She'd learned the hard way that people, even those you trust most, can deeply disappoint you. A year after the divorce, Vincent sat in his new, smaller but more practical apartment, looking out the window at the city lights. He wasn't fully healed. There were still nights when anger returned, when the sting of betrayal felt fresh. But there was also something new, a strange, hard-won peace. He'd done the right thing. He hadn't prolonged the pain by pretending nothing happened. He hadn't accepted crumbs of regret in exchange for years of loyalty. Denise, on the other hand, never fully recovered what she'd lost. Her hospital reputation remained tarnished. She kept working, technically as competent as ever, but the admiration she once received had evaporated. Blake never contacted her again. She tried other relationships, but now carried the weight of guilt, shame, and what-ifs. Her closest friends had drifted away, not necessarily out of moral judgment, but because they simply didn't know how to act around her anymore. Vincent ran into Denise once, 6 months after the divorce, in a supermarket parking lot. She was leaving with just a few bags, looking tired, her once religiously dyed hair now showing gray. They locked eyes for an awkward moment. Denise opened her mouth as if to say something, but Vincent just gave a polite, distant nod and walked to his car. There was nothing left to say. Olivia graduated from law school 2 years later, and Vincent sat in the front row of the ceremony, applauding with genuine pride. Denise was there too, a few seats back, alone. At the small celebration afterward, Olivia split her time between her parents separately, avoiding situations where they'd have to interact. This was the Harper family's new reality, functional, but fractured. Vincent eventually started seeing someone, a divorced colleague from the office who understood scars without needing long explanations. They took things slowly, without pressure, enjoying honest conversation and companionship. She had a sharp sense of humor and zero tolerance for lies. Vincent appreciated that more than any other trait. One night, over a quiet dinner at his apartment, she asked, "Have you really moved on? What happened with your ex?" Vincent thought before answering. Moving on isn't about forgetting. It's about learning to carry it without letting it break you. I've learned that. And it was true. Vincent had learned that loyalty isn't weakness, that stability isn't boredom, that predictability in love is really just reliability. He'd learned that people can change, that secrets erode, that lies eventually surface. He'd learned that facing pain head-on, even when it feels impossible, is the only way to come out the other side whole. Denise, meanwhile, learned the hardest lesson, that actions have consequences, that moments of weakness can destroy decades of building, that the grass isn't actually greener elsewhere. She now carried the loneliness she'd created herself, the regret no apology could undo, the awareness that she'd traded something real for something fleeting. Vincent didn't take pleasure in her downfall. Revenge wasn't what he sought when he chose to tell the truth or refused to protect her reputation at the cost of his own dignity. What he wanted was justice in its purest form, for reality to be known, for him not to be painted as the villain in a story where he was the victim. And in that, he'd won. But the real victory, he realized with time, wasn't destroying Denise or exposing her. It was rebuilding himself. It was looking in the mirror and recognizing the man he saw, someone who didn't lower his head, who didn't settle for less than he deserved, who had the courage to end something already dead, even when it hurt like amputation. The last time Olivia visited, she and Vincent were sorting through old photos to digitize. She held up a picture from her parents' wedding, young, smiling, full of future ahead. "Do you think she was always like this?" Olivia asked softly. "Capable of betrayal?" Vincent studied the photo for a long moment. "I think people change. Or maybe they just reveal who they always were when they think no one's watching. I don't know, sweetheart. And in the end, it doesn't matter. What matters is I'm not going to waste any more time trying to understand why she did it. She did. It's over. And we move on. Olivia put the photo back in the box. I'm proud of you, Dad. Of how you handled everything. Vincent felt his eyes sting slightly but smiled. I did what needed to be done. Nothing more. And it was that simplicity, that clarity, that kept him whole. Vincent Harper had lost a marriage, but regained something far more valuable, self-respect. And unlike the marriage, no one could ever take that from him again. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.